Hi, in this video I will show you how to put together this round canister with lid, which is an SVG file from Simply Crafty SVGs. So I was trying to get a look of those metallic, canisters with, that glass canisters with the metal lids. So with the box, of course, I can't easily do that. So I had just little openings to put little window pieces. So these are the pieces. These are the sides. These for the bottom. This is for the lid, and I used a metallic, it's a lighter cardstock, like a 65-pound. It's, the other side's Craft, but this is from Recollections. And here are the sides. So we also have the knob piece in here, and then all the rest of the pieces of the box. So we're going to start with the harder piece. And when I say harder piece, it's actually not that hard to put together. So I'm going to just move this aside. So we're going to do the lid piece. So here's a version of it, and I'll be showing this again a little bit later. There's two files that are available. One's with the opening, which will have a window, and this is the other one. So I intended to have a window to start with, but I thought, how easy would it be for me just to add another set of sides, all the same size, with their own panels. So this is an alternative version, but I thought it's a 2-in-1 file. So if you don't want, you just want that. So that just pulls off like that. So that's what the lid looks like. So that's what we're going to put together. What makes it so challenging is not the shape, it's using metallic paper. So if you use metallic paper, here are my tips. Make sure that you have a little damp, slightly damp paper towel to get any excess. So glue, when it gets on metallics, just smears. So it's hard to work with. So I would say that's my first tip. Make sure you have a little paper towel. We'll go ahead and gently fold these pieces. So we're just going to get the hard part, meaning you have to pay extra attention to your fingers and whether they have glue on them when you do this kind of work. So I'm going to go ahead and fold these pieces. While my fingers are clean, I'm going to do all the folding, because as you work with wet glues, inevitably over time you're going to get glue on your fingertips. So the way we're going to do this is the top, that's the bottom, the big tab. So when you fold it, you want to kind of gently fold it back too, to train it, because it's going to fold in here. So go ahead and fold all these pieces. And so what's other tips? So I use art glitter glue, and if you do get glue on the metallics, you're going to want to wipe it away right away. So that's why I have a small paper towel. If you have another paper towel, you might want to have one that's a little bit more wet if your fingers start getting too full of dry glue, like mine does. Or stop and just wash your hands. It's not as simple when I'm doing a video to do that. So we're just going to make it plain, but you'll see this one, you can take this top lid piece and emboss it. Actually, I'm going to emboss it. I haven't embossed it yet, but you see how the embossing's kind of cool? Kind of gives it a nice, like, extra touch. So we're going to go ahead and emboss that, and then we'll get started, but we want to emboss it first. So one thing I do like about embossing the metallics is that it comes out so nicely. So this is going to be the top panel of the lid, and I just use this. Unfortunately, Cuttlebug no longer makes embossing folders, but this is Julie's Garden, and you can always preview what an embossing folder is going to look like, so I'll use this blank spot. You can kind of see what it's going to look like by putting it in the folder and then running it through your die cutter or embossing machine. So I just thought that would be a fun generic, since there's This is pretty plain when you don't have panels on the windowed version. It's just something to spice it up. I want it to be a simple box, but yet a little bit, that'll give it a little flair. So if you don't know about embossing folders, check them out. It's not the same as like a de-embossing tip. You just see the thickness it does. But I love the look on metallics, as much as I hate to glue metallics. So we're going to do the knob first. And I apologize if you hear my dogs barking because they're outside getting into something. So there's 6 of these. So we can start at the bottom or top, but I always typically start at the top. So the one thing about metallic paper, not just the one thing, is the glue is slipperier than normal, so I'm not going to go up to the fold because I'm trying to avoid it leaking out too much. You see how it starts to leak out? So we're going to go ahead and I'm just lining up this top panel, the edge to the tab fold of the previous one. You want to hold it longer than you would normally hold it with regular cardstock. Because fortunately, at least one side, the back side, is like a craft paper for this one. So it helps with the adherence, but it takes longer. It's just slippery for a time. So this is going to take longer than if you were to do it with, as you see I did the other one with cardstock. It didn't take as long because it adheres differently. This metallic portion up here is quite slippery. So you just kind of keep on going down tab by tab. So you want to hold it in place. And I actually made the knob smaller when I started, but I decided because the metallic paper that I decided to make it just slightly larger. So there's 2 pieces together. So I gave up on my dogs. I had them locked out, but they're scratching to get in, and I don't blame them. What happened during with them all day long, so when I lock them out of the room for a video, I guess the worst thing is going to happen. If they start barking, I stop recording, but they like to keep me company. They don't like doors closed on them. Tortured animals. So you just want to continue going around adding these each piece. So if you want to, I think it's best with that first one is to anchor it and then glue it. So you won't have to be this careful if, see, I just smeared it everywhere. If you were using regular cardstock, this is, you don't have to wait as long. So I'll just continue making it and you can watch me make it because it takes such a long time with me being careful with the metallics. That's why you'll notice I don't do a lot of videos with metallic. In hindsight, I could have done the other, could have made the other lid and pre-made this. But we'll speed up this assembly portion. So now that we have the sides together, so you can see that I'm kind of holding it like that to open. So because of the metallic issue, we have to be really careful with the tabs. So you can pop them inside. Make sure it's good and dry on all those edges before you do this, because I'm applying a little bit of pressure by pulling it apart. I'm putting the tabs down so they go inside, so I have no chance of the glue getting on the outside. So I'm just spreading my fingers apart, keeping it widened. And I'm trying not to get too close to the edge there. Then again, let's get it in place. This is where you're more likely to get the glue on anything. So I'm going to gently slide that. Because it doesn't actually adhere quickly, gives me a little bit more wiggle room time to get this in place. Be careful with that too, because the glue can get on underneath and then get on the side. So I'm just going to get that in place. As you can tell, it does take longer. And I'm using my normal art glitter glue, and you'll know note the difference once I start doing the base. It's much faster. And so I had a little glue on my fingertip. This does dent easily, so making sure I don't have it. Get it off. And then it looks like it's adhered well. I have a little gap at the top. I might be able to wiggle it still a little bit. Yeah, it's not quite dry yet. So it takes time to dry. But the great part is it gave me time to wiggle it into place too. I always get that glue right on my thumb. Right on my thumb. So we want to go ahead, and you want to be careful when you're doing this, obviously. You don't want to put any stress on these. But see, that one came apart. Didn't notice that until now. And it's purely, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in there to adhere it. It's just because I didn't hold it. And then you're pulling, when you're folding this kind of paper, it just takes long to hold. So we'll get this all set and make sure you train those backwards, and then we can glue them to the inside of this. So I placed a little glue on the top tabs to put that top piece on first. Then we can reach in and apply pressure from within. So I'm going to have my fingertips inside. So I'm trying to be careful of how I place it, because I don't want to get the glue anywhere. So let's get it in place. So I'm pushing up on the tab inside while I apply pressure down here. And I can go around. Do the same on every tab. So then I'm going to flip it upside down, make sure there's no glue on your mat when you do this, and then apply pressure from within, because it's a nice wide area. So now I'm going to tuck those in. So I'm going to add glue to one of the tabs on the outside of the tab, and we're going to fold it over and adhere it to the back of this top panel. So make sure that the inside edge lines up of the panel. Again, it's just going to take a little bit longer than regular cardstock. And also when you're manipulating it like this, remember I have another finger on it. So make sure that other hand is free of glue. And also a sharp nail will actually be noticeable because it dents really easily. That's why the embossing looks so good. So I'm doing this all pretty gently, especially since I'm pressing down on embossed cardstock. So we'll just get the last 4 in place. So I kind of push a little bit to make sure that the inside edge meets. A little glue on my fingertips. So bottom line is, if you're going to use, obviously, metallics to get this metallic look, it's going to take longer than using cardstock would. If you wanted to get the look and you didn't want to use metallics, you could use like a gray, which I almost did, but honestly, the whole reason for me to make this was to make a canister like that. So once we get them in place, kind of lightly apply pressure. That way, just make sure your fingertips are clean when you do it, and then you can just rub down. So let's go ahead and finish the lid so it can sit there. So here's the other metallic panel we're going to use. So make sure it's scored. We're just going to put these 2 pieces together. Every single metallic piece you use. So we're matching this edge up to the fold. Don't go over it, just up to. And I actually go a little bit to the right. And it moves a lot more than still takes longer to adhere, which is a good or bad thing. It gives you longer time to line it up properly. And then we can just fold this over. I feel like I've been too lucky. I haven't gotten too much glue, but as you can see, it went a little bit too far there. So let me get that off. Get off my hands. And it should fold right over. So it's okay to use this lighter weight cardstock because it's just a lid. So now what we're going to do is fold those inward. So it doesn't really make a difference. I know that I can put the metallic part up, or I can put the metallic part in. Now it's not going to be seen. It just goes inside. So I can make it consistent color like that and put the cardstock up, and then that'll glue to that. Or I can do this to this, which will glue better. And have metallic inside. So it's up to you. I'm going to choose so we can have it glue a little bit faster, because hardly anybody's going to look inside anyways. I'll put the metallic up just in case part of it shows. So I think generally that's probably the case. But we want to go ahead and add glue to all these tabs. Fortunately, we're going with gravity, so it'll be easier to adhere. It just becomes when we have to adhere that top piece. So we're going to put that over there, make sure it's out of our way. So I'm going to put the metal down. And we're just going to line it up into the sides. And then just apply pressure like that. So the pressure against the table will help adhere it, but if you can hear it, I can actually hear it lifting as I move that glue. But with wet glue, what's nice is that once it dries, it grabs. And there's better glues for metallics, but this works fine. It's just more of a patience and time thing. So I don't care that there's glue on the top, because I'm going to cover it. So that just goes like that. See, the only issue with this, so be careful when you're putting this glue on here. You can't really apply pressure once the knob's on, upside down. So you need to use your fingertips to apply pressure inside. I want to get as much coverage with these little strips as possible just because it's metallic. Just trying to stay away from the edge. I'm just going to place it carefully. Make sure there's no glue on my fingertips. I'm just making sure I didn't get any on my fingertips as I'm So you just want to go around and apply pressure all the places that it touches. So let's start with the edges. So I'm just going lightly rubbing around the edges. You can see I'm trying to keep my fingertips off of the sides. I don't have any glue on my fingertips, but just in case. And then you could do that if you wanted to. The edges will be more likely to lift up than anything else. So once you get that on, you can set it aside to have it dry a little bit more. And because I embossed it, it kind of lifts the edges a little bit too. But isn't that cool? Doesn't that have a great effect? Is why I thought it was worth it to do it in metallics. I like it. I hope others do too. So let me go ahead and I'll put that aside. So now that we have that lid done and it's sitting drying a little bit more, we have these side pieces. So there's 10 of them. So we're going to go ahead and fold them. So I'm going to show you fold it twice so you can get it. So we're going to first want to fold them, and then we're going to put on this little window. So that's acetate. You see that? And this little panel on the front. So those are these two little things. So when you fold it, you want to fold it naturally in a mountain fold, which is like that. So fold it down like that. And this top piece is a valley fold. So valley fold is just folding upward like this to make the neck. Okay, so just to get it ready. And then this skinny little piece here, kind of can fold upward like that. This is how I do it when they have really skinny edges and that opening. So one more time, just fold down naturally. You want to do the tabs as well, get them nice and good folded. Make sure you go all the way down to that bottom one, and then fold this top part up into a valley fold. And then this is just easier to go against a table. Like that. So once you get them all folded, we take these two pieces and we're going to add it to this. So you will have to be careful putting it together, not to get glue on these things. But if you put it together afterwards, which you can, so just your option is to put it on now or put them on later. But I'm going to put them on now and just be careful. You can also, instead of using a window, if you want to do it a different way, we have this version, which I showed you earlier. So it's the same assembly. The only difference is it has this panel and no opening. So you can see I left a panel off. So the way you're going to put it together the same, but this panel is just going to go like this. So I'll show you how this goes on. So we'll do this one really quick. So that's not going to fit on that other one, obviously, because it's got a window. So we're going to go like this. Center. So once you put it together, it's going to go together the same way, the base. The same size tabs and everything, so there's teeny tabs, but it works. but you just kind of put a spacing around it. Just make sure you start at the top or the bottom, and then equidistance from the top. Just make sure you're doing the same as the ones next to it. So there's two versions, so you can use the solid version or the one with the windows. So the windows, you know, how do you do a open jar easily with paper? I didn't want to make the whole thing acetate, else that's a nightmare. Gluing, when I talk about the nightmare gluing metal, same thing with acetate. Or this is, I use transfer paper. I had inkjet transfer paper. Either way. So the way you're going to do this, so you could put a pattern piece of paper in there too. So if you don't want a window, but you just want the look, you could just substitute this for a pattern piece of paper. So this is slightly smaller than that area. So just start on one edge. Don't get glued too close to the edge because you don't want it to be seen. And the beauty of this is that if you can't see through it, it doesn't matter because this is the same exact size as this panel. So you're just going to fit it on over. And yeah, in this case you can see through it because it's an acetate of sorts. But I just go ahead and add glue here. Be careful of the opening. Just go around the edges more so. I'm just making sure that the texture side's out. And then just apply pressure. And then you can just stack them up because we're going to put them together. So I'll do one more. So I have them all in this little embellishment bowl, so I don't lose them, especially since the acetate is hard to see. Those are fine. And you could also do a different color, although I made it all one color to make it simplified. So we'll do one more while I'm talking, and the rest I'll do after. So a little bit around, just don't get near the opening too much for the acetate part. For either part, really. If you do like these our projects, for this project, I would always appreciate it if you give me a little thumbs up, a like below, and if you feel like subscribing, please hit the subscribe button, and or you can click on that notification button and it'll tell you when we have new videos, new projects, that kind of thing. So you can see I just stay away from that middle opening. But I did do a test box, and I'll show you the test box after this real quick before I finish the rest of them. I did one with the pattern paper, and actually is a fun look. Just be aware that this test box is not, it truly is not the same size. So if you want to get an idea kind of what it looks like, but there are slight differences. The opening's a little bit more. So you see I put a little thing in there. So this is one of my tests when I was trying to figure out what the best method was to assemble it. So it's a little bit off because I changed the assembly method. But that's it. So let me go ahead and I'll finish putting these on, and then we'll move on to assembling the bottom piece. Okay, now that we have these little windows on, again, you're going to want to be careful with glue if you're using clear acetate. If you're using panels, solid pattern panels, then that wouldn't be much of an issue. So let me go ahead and get to the center of the screen here. So I think it's simpler to go from the bottom to the top, but I'll show you both methods. And the reason I think it's simpler is because you have one big tab that you can glue down at the bottom. So we're just going to line this up on that tab. So this is why everything being pre-folded helps. So even with the solid version, those tabs are that small. I didn't change the tab size, but it's just small enough so it doesn't go under the window and show through. So I thought this would be a good basic canister thing for a gift. Any occasion, really. I just like making generic boxes sometimes. So I'm just going to fold it right there over. And you could just reach in, but I'm just showing you. I'm adding glue to each of these tabs. And again, acetate is just not as forgiving as, it's the same issue, probably even worse than metallic. But there's other options. So you could use solid paper. If you don't have, you can either use solid paper or no, you could just do the other version. So I just go tab by tab all the way up to glue it. If you're going to do it, either go from the top down or the bottom up consistently. So if you're off a little bit, you're consistently off. So I'm going to do one going down only to show those that might want to do it that way, how that might work. So make sure these are folded back. So we just anchor this piece. I personally am right-handed though, but maybe somebody left-handed might think it's easier to do it this way. I like going from the bottom up with this particular, these long ones like this. And I'm going to add glue to these tabs inside. I feel it naturally when you go to up the curve, it curves up more naturally than it curves down. But either way, it's the way you hold it. So see, it's working out for me. So I just line up each tab, go in order, making sure that that edge meets up with the tab fold. But again, if whatever way you do it, you can be, you'll be consistent. Either if you're inconsistent, you'll be consistently inconsistent. So you can always angle it down to get some pressure behind that tab. So I'll continue to put them on with the long tab first, going up. And again, try to keep your windows clean of any glue. So so when it's done, you'll have a clear, kind of get that look. It's kind of a fun look. So I'm on my last panel, I'm just closing it up. So get those matched up. I'm just going to flip it over to apply some pressure. Those panels on top actually help to line up the edges quite well, as long as you get those panels centered. Then flip those inside, and then do those last 4 tabs. Then we can just move on to the bottom piece. It's almost done. It's a rather large box. You can try to make it smaller. The only thing that's going to be a problem, obviously, is the lid. Not so much. I mean, only if you make it metallic. Anything metallic is going to be a struggle anyway, so it's really not the size. So I'm just going to go from the top. What this will be like, gluing these side pieces will be much smaller, but you can resize the entire. We have a video on how to resize in Cricut and Silhouette. And I think I have one for Shortcuts a lot too. It's just basically selecting everything and then resizing it. They're slightly different because some software, this software is different. I only had little smudge on one window, so that was good. So isn't that fun? You can kind of see inside. Put a little gift inside and see it. So I'm just folding that back just temporarily to put this inside piece in. Since you can see inside, we want it to be a solid panel on the inside and outside, and this will help it be more structurally sound. Just kind of place it inside like that first. Then we can add some glue to some of the tabs here. So it does take some time to get those sides on. I think it's worth it for a special box. So I'm going to do I'm going to squish those all inside so we can get these sides down. And then we go ahead and do the rest of them. It's funny, I thought I did 5 tabs, but I only did 4. So almost half-half, not quite. 40-60. And then we're just kind of pushing in. You can go to the sides. It should just naturally fall in there. See how clean it is inside then? And then we can just add that panel on the bottom. So I'm not gonna show you that. But so that just finishes it, other than that bottom panel. So this is the finished. And it is kind of a snug fit, so I can fit it, I can lift it. And there it is. I call this even though it's not completely round, I call it the round canister with lid. And we have at least one other canister similar to this on our website. And then of course you also can make this a variation of the file. So here they are, finished. So one that you can see in and the other one with solid panels. And I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please remember to give me a little like below. And thank you for watching.